Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sterling Live. My name is Caitlin Brower. I am Sterling's social media manager today. Well, always, not just today, but I am your host today. See, got you guys to laugh real quick. There we go. It's going to be a great show. I am thrilled to have two guests here with me today. Every week we do go live across LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube at 1 p.m. Eastern. So today is going to be a great conversation as, we enter into tomorrow, November 11th, which is Veterans Day. So my two guests today are Michael Cheek, Sterling's manager, corporate IT. And then we also have Jenna Gardner, Sterling's employee experience leader. So as I just mentioned before, Veterans Day is tomorrow. So our topic today is Veterans Day, thanking and hiring veterans in our Team Sterling workforce. So thank you to the both of you for joining me today. So I introduced you guys by name. I would love for you guys to take a second and introduce yourselves. And Michael specifically, if you want to walk through your time in the military. So actually, let's kick it off. Michael, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right, I'm Michael Cheek. I'm based out of the Independence office. I was in the Navy from May of 1992 till 1996. I was stationed in Guam on NAS Aganya and off the USS Independence out of Yokosuka, Japan.
Awesome.
I did 4 years in the Navy. Went basically from Hawaii all the way through the Persian Gulf, anywhere you can think of from north to south. Mm-hmm. And then when they shut the base down in Guam, they brought us all back to San Diego, which is where I settled for 22 years.
Thank you for that. Jenna, Can you please go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah. So hi, I'm Jenna Gardner, and today, no, I'm just joking. Today I am a people.
See, I did that
too. Really, my role is to engage in all of the experiences that an employee has and making sure that it's really great. I like to think about it like how companies focus heavily on customers and clients and pumping all that money into understanding them and making their experience good. I do that for the employees. So that's what I get to do. And I'm so honored to be here today with both of you guys.
Thank you for that. And I truly am honored to be a part of this conversation. So first and foremost, on behalf of Sterling and from myself, we do want to say thank you to all veterans out there right now, especially you, Michael. Thank you for your service. Thank you. So kick things off here. Sterling is a global organization, so we do have a global following. So I wanted to make sure that everyone fully understood what Veterans Day was, and what a better way to define it than from an actual veteran. So Michael, in your own words, what is Veterans Day?
Veterans Day is a way for people who did not serve in the military to thank those who took time out of their lives to serve and to protect this country, and to just generally thank them for what they've done and what they do.
Amazing. And again, thank you, for your service. Truly appreciated. So let's go ahead and get into our topic today. So we will be discussing Veterans Day, specifically veterans in the workforce, and then also recruiting and hiring veterans, an overview of these things, but then also really honing in on Sterling and what we do in these areas. So Michael, I have a couple of questions for you here in regards to veterans in the workforce. So let's kick it off with our first question. So can you tell us how your experience as a veteran has played such an important role in your success at Sterling?
Basically, any situation that you get put into, you can accomplish it. Mm-hmm. Because you've been through so much from being in the military, whether it's being deployed, whether it's working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether, no matter what the situation is, you understand that walking into this, you are going to be able to accomplish it. So you put forth that attitude when you do it, and people gravitate towards it. They understand that, okay, this guy's actually sure that we can do this. Let's see if we can. And it helps the attitude and it promotes attitude, and things start to get accomplished, and you start to get known for that. So It really helps to have that sort of mentality when you walk into a situation here, whether it be, something has gone down, a service has gone down, whether it's new people coming on board. Being a new person in the military, when you walk into a squadron or a platoon or anything, you don't know anybody. You literally might have flown across the world and walked into a strange room with 500 to 1,000 strange people. And so to be able to walk up to someone and just say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Mike. I'm the person that's going to introduce you to the place." They go, "Okay, that's one friendly face that I have here." And it takes all that stress off of them immediately.
I love that explanation because it actually, and now that you say that in your experience with the military, you are always saying things like, "Hi, how are you? I'm Mike. I'm your go-to IT guy." It's very much service oriented. So when you put it in that perspective, it's interesting to hear it and then actually identify it with my experience with you, Mike.
It's like going to a new school when you walk in and everyone's at the lunchroom and you're standing there with your tray, nervous about where to go. If that one person goes, "Hey, sit here," it just, the next day you're not nervous anymore. You know that one person. And so when that one person walks into Sterling, there might be 10 people in that training room that don't know anyone. And you just say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Mike. Remember me?" And they go, "Oh yeah, hi." Couple quick words, and then it moves them along.
Yeah, that's great. And I love like the real life example, the real life experience that you're talking about. So to advance on that a little bit, talking about just introducing yourselves and items like that, what top skills or skill sets have you taken from your time in the military and translated to your roles at Sterling or elsewhere? Looking at things like process, chain of command, communications, things like that.
You are thrown into, from the very beginning in boot camp, you are thrown into a room with 84 other people that are from around the country. You don't, 90% of the time, you're not going to know anyone when you walk in there, but you all have to work together. Eventually, you all have to come together. So the beginning, everyone is just quiet, at odds. They don't know each other, but eventually, by the end of it, you're just one well-oiled team moving forward, solving problems, figuring things out. How does this work? How does Jenna work that's different than how Caitlin works? Right. And that's how you talk to different people. So I've taken that away from it, plus the fact that you're not allowed to fail. You cannot fail when you're in the military. If you fail, missions don't happen. If missions don't happen, people are in jeopardy. So things along those lines, you can take it and scale it down, but it's still, if you don't get that laptop up for the VP that's coming in, there might not be a sale made. If there's not a sale made, we might have to lay off people. If we lay off people, they don't have paychecks for their family. So if you take it on that scale, what you do matters at every level. So you take that mind and we can't fail. Move forward. Let's finish this. Let's do this.
Wow.
Yeah. No, and it's such a inspiring way to look at things for sure. And I do very much appreciate those examples. So Michael, you clearly have a very, and for people who don't know, great resume here at Sterling. And you've done such an amazing job here, and you've had different roles. You've been super successful in different positions, things like that. So that's amazing. But do you have any advice for those veterans that might be entering the workforce for the first time?
Never say no. Never say no to a job that's asked of you. Offer to take on as much as you can. The reason that I became known in this company is because I took on all these tasks. I would just go, "You know what, this seems like something that should be worked on." And you move forward and go, "Hey, you know what? Hi, I'm Mike. I'd like to talk to you about this if you ever have a chance." Don't be afraid to knock on someone's door and introduce yourself. One of my first things when I went to New York for the first time, I scheduled a meeting with Billy. I had never met Billy Greenblatt before in my life. I walked in there as just a technician that was moving into a lead spot and said, "Hey, this is what I think of the IT role. What do you think?" And he sat down with me for about a good 30 minutes. People love to tell you what their vision is and what they want. If you walk in there and establish a rapport with them and bring forth I will do attitude, there's no limit to where you can go. Don't be afraid to ask for more tasks. Don't be afraid to take on that job that nobody wants. You're used to it anyways. In the military, when you start off, you're probably mopping floors a lot. You're probably stuck in the galley a lot, peeling, doing dishes. So you already know you can do all these jobs. Just when you step out here, don't be afraid to take that on, because you'll be surprised how much easier it is than what it was in the military and how much further it goes with these people. Everyone that goes,
Right.
oh wow, so Mike's willing to take on the Verizon account? Yeah, absolutely. I'm willing to take on the Verizon account. It needs to be done. And if I succeed at it, they go, wow, Mike did that. It translates as you move on and take on things.
Yeah, it's truly interesting and it's great. And Jenna, this might be a question for you, but Michael, if you have insight into as well, are there any like particular exercises? So if you are entering the workforce for the first time, like as a veteran, and we did discuss like the skill sets and the skills that transfer over. Are there any exercises like sitting down and writing down everything that you have and kind of translating that over? Just kind of a question that came off the top of my head right now. Like I do wonder if there's best practice exercise, things like that. And it's a question for the both of you. So
you want to go, Jenna?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I guess this applies to everybody, but I do think that, in the military, you're probably gaining all these different types of skills that you tend to practice on a daily basis. But if you're applying to a job and you sit down and you look at that job, you should be looking at like what attributes and what skill sets do I have that correlate? Because you want the business to be successful, right? But you also want yourself to be successful. So it's really about aligning your skill set with those descriptions and responsibilities so that you can make sure that it's the right fit. So, yeah.
When you're getting out of the military, about 6 months or so before you get out, you're offered courses to translate into the civilian life. They offer you resume courses. They offer you things like that. Take those. But talk to your friends that you have that have gotten out of the military already and that are in the workforce, that are already in the workforce. I have a friend that was in the Navy for 25 years named Dave. And when he got out, he goes, the biggest thing for me is that I asked now to go to lunch. He was the top of the food chain for enlisted. He was a Master Chief Petty Officer. He ran squadrons, hundreds of people. But now that he's in a civilian world, he's like, I asked to go to lunch. And talk to your friends that are get out, because those little things do happen. But if you talk to your friends and get to know that, you can prepare yourself for it.
That's great advice for sure. So I do want to take a quick step back here and let our audience know that we are fielding questions and comments. So if you are watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube right now, and you have questions for our great guests today, please feel free to go ahead and comment and send them in. And we'll go ahead and ask Jenna and Michael here. So I do have one more question for you, Michael, directed at you, but we'll keep this conversation going here. So specifically when it comes to Sterling, how have we helped you and your family?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm going to call her out. Kristen Weber was the old HR person here in Ohio. When I started as a contractor. And in order to buy my house, I had to be a full-time employee by January 17, 2017. She stayed over the Christmas holiday and faxed my paperwork to different people to get signatures and brought it back so we could take it to my realtor so I could qualify for the house that we live in. When someone like that I'd only known for maybe 3 months went that far so that my family could have a home over their head, that's the type of integrity and loyalty that I go, all right, I'm in. Yeah. What do you need here now? What are we doing here? They've taught me that a lot of times that you showing initiative, moving forward and trying and going on gets you rewarded. I've done a lot of cool trips. I've gone out to Bellevue to help set up the office expansion there. I've been to New York several times. Just really cool things that you get to do here just by working hard and showing initiative. They reward you for it.
Yeah, I love that. And, the story that you shared with us truly is remarkable. And that just makes me super proud and honored to be a part of Team Sterling. So thank you so much for sharing with us with us.
Absolutely.
So moving into the second part of our conversation here. So we want to talk a little bit about, recruiting and hiring veterans. So Jenna, that's where, you come into this conversation with a lot of knowledge here. Expanding upon too, so like diversity and inclusion, that means a lot to Sterling as an organization. So just a generic question around that right now. So why is diversity and inclusion so important to conducting our business?
It's such a great question. I get it asked all the time from like friends and family. And I'm going to answer it kind of in two parts. First for myself personally, and then kind of tying into the business.
I love it.
Personally, it's so important for me to expose myself to different cultures, different languages, different foods that are different from my own, because it helps me better connect with the people that live in my community. My community is very diverse, and having that experience connects us better. And that actually directly ties to the business side of it, right? So when you have a business and a leadership team that is diverse and it reflects the market, which is a global market, you create opportunities for yourself. And some of the things that I think of at the top of my head are things like reduced turnover, right? So when you have employees that feel valued, respected, included by a company who's engaging in D&I efforts, they're less likely to leave the organization. You have things like coming up with ideas that resonate with your customers, right? Because you're in those markets and you understand those markets. And then my favorite is just, the extra creativity that you get when you have a bunch of people sitting at the table who have different experiences and thus different perspectives. What you get out of that is a solution or, an opportunity that may have never come about if you didn't have those different perspectives. So, all of it makes a positive impact on the revenue. And, it's important to be intentional about your diversity and inclusion efforts.
Yeah, and I do love the scope that you provided, the personal and, just more so Sterling directed as well, because I think, a lot of organizations go out there and they explain why they do things. But it's important for the three of us to get on a dialogue here and not only talk about just, Sterling, like this is what it truly means to us, as employees of the company, but also as, just everyday people as well. So I really appreciate that you put that spin on it because I think it's super important. So definitely you can provide, detailed examples here if you want, or it can be an overview of things. We already know Michael provided a great example earlier, but how does Sterling support our veterans?
That's a really great question. I think I'm going to pull it back to a broader diversity and inclusion effort, which surely includes veterans. I think it's nice to say I need to hire more veterans or I need to hire a diverse workforce, but you actually have to do the work. You have to. This is what Sterling is doing. We're breaking down every part of the recruiting process from the time you enter the rec to the words that you are putting on that job description that will attract or maybe not attract a certain type of person. Your interview panel, is it diverse? Is it representative? Do we have veterans on the interview panel? And, even have we gone to the extent to train our interviewers to understand what it means to have an inclusive recruiting process? All of those things are small, but have a huge impact on making sure we can hire veterans and hire a diverse pipeline. And I think there's other things that we can be doing that now that I'm in this conversation and have heard some really great things from you, Michael, is having a conversation with you. Do you have friends, right? What's your network? Can we bring them in? And then what can we do to support you guys, right? I think from past conversations, I know one of the policies we have in place is that if somebody's on active military leave, I think the military pays them a portion of their salary, but Sterling will supplement that to make it 100% so that our veterans can serve our country. And it's so great to be part of that process. So that was a long way to say to really look at all parts of your process and integrate diversity and inclusion into those stuffs.
Well, it wasn't boring, so I'll give you that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Not at all. And Michael, I was actually going to see if you had, any thoughts on Jenna's response there, just a part of their whole recruiting process.
To me, everyone's an individual. I look at if you when I was in the military, don't ask, don't tell was huge. You didn't ask about it, but that was amongst the higher ups around the barracks and around each other. We didn't care. You were who you were. You were stuck like we were stuck, and we just, we lived together. We partied together. We hung out together. We were all friends, and I didn't care who you were. I think that if you want to be a member of Team Sterling, that should be the most important thing. Who you are will be who you introduce yourself to me as. And if you introduce yourself to me and that becomes part of your introduction on whether you're gay, trans, Muslim, Republican, military, anything, that becomes something that we go, okay, that means that's something to them. I need to respect that. To me, I'm not going to ask. I don't, because I judge you off of who you are day to day. I don't judge off of labels. But if that label is important to you, it's important to me. And I think that's where that all should come into matter.
I do love that response. And I think it directly ties into the overarching view of diversity and inclusion of what, Jenna had shared with us, and then, what we're doing from a corporate standpoint and where we stand there. So I think that was a great addition to the dialogue that we're having right now. So Jenna, I know you briefly touched on certain things that, Sterling might be doing, but can you provide a little bit more detail? Maybe not, it's okay if not. Just a little bit more detail into what Sterling's, veteran recruiting strategy looks like.
Yeah, so maybe my answer was a little bit too high level, but we are actually doing all of those things. So looking at how do we diversify our panel, right? And that does include our veterans, or making sure that they get the training to be part of that, and to develop their skills around that, if that's something that they want to do, right? Like they don't have to. We would just love them to be a part of that. And engaging them in looking at our job description and the words on our job descriptions to make sure that they are attractive to everybody, and not just bringing in a certain type of candidates. Because I think traditionally there's, in all of human resources industry, there's a lot of, this is the template we use, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. But little do we know that has implications on the types of candidates that we are attracting. So
that's great. So thank you for that detail. So we discussed a lot about, skill sets and certain things that transfer over from, veterans time in the military over into the workforce. So one of the key areas where I've read a bunch of times about, or I've just learned about things like that, is military lingo and how it transfers over into the workforce. So my question for you, Jenna, but then Michael, please chime in, because I'd love your thoughts on this as well. Why is it important for human resources and people teams to, to understand and to be educated on this military lingo?
Gotcha. When you say the word lingo, I directly tie it to how we communicate and the language, which to me is integral to our culture and how we are raised and our backgrounds. And at any level, in order for our employees to be successful, we have to understand those differences that exist, even when it comes to language, right? And I think it's easy for us when people say something, we judge it from the lens of our own culture, which doesn't make it right or wrong. We just have to, and people and culture, help to facilitate that understanding and facilitate the communication so that everybody can work together and be part of this community. And that's, as you bring up this question, I'm thinking about all the times that, Mike, you said roger that or copy that. Yeah. And now I'm like, okay, now I understand what that's coming from. But we need to, in order for all of us to be successful, we need to facilitate those conversations and understand the differences that come with culture and upbringing. And the military is one, right? You guys are a family. It's a culture. And that's part of that understanding for us.
Absolutely. Jenna's dead on there. It is a culture. You know someone in the military by the way they walk, by the way they dress, by the way they talk. Just like you would know someone from Boston, or if you knew someone was from the South. You can hear when if you ask them to tell you what a VDI is, they might go Victor Delta India. It helps to distinguish what it is. They count off a 24-hour time instead of saying 1 p.m. They'll say 1300. I say copy that because there's no misunderstanding whether I got it. I don't go or sure. sure can be taken as in, flippant or, like whatever you say. But if I go copy that, you go, he got it. We're moving on now. So you see those in people from the military that use it, and when you hear it as someone that's in the military, you just naturally just go, I wonder what they served in. And I see that around the office in Ohio. I see people, and I've walked up to them and I've said, all right, what is it, Army or Marine? And they go, what? I'm like, Navy. And it just breaks, and it immediately breaks the ice.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, and again, it's just another great example. And I do love that too. It's a good icebreaker. It really is. So definitely love that. So I'm going to take a moment here. Our audiences, again, that are watching live right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If you do have questions for our panelists, please go ahead and comment them in the comment box, and I will field them to both Jenna and Michael. But as we kind of wrap up here, and this has just truly been an outstanding conversation. I've loved chatting with the two of you today. You've provided so many insights into many things that I definitely need to learn a little bit more about. And it's definitely good timing. So as we wrap things up, I do want to get some just final thoughts from the two of you, in regards to the topic, in regards to things that we spoke about today. So Jenna, do you want to go ahead and kick us off with some final thoughts?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you to all of our veterans. And Mike, thank you as well. And thank you for having this conversation. I have known you now for almost 4 years. And what you have just told me just opened my brain or mind, what have you, about like how we can partner, right, around bringing in other veterans and what that looks like for us. But I'm grateful for the conversation. And I know we're going to continue to have more. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's quite a few of us around. First off, happy Marine Corps birthday.
Yes.
Today, I think it's 2:45 today. Hoorah. But we're here. I mean, veterans, the biggest thing for veterans is adjusting from going from military life into civilian life. That first job or two is hard to do. It's hard to figure out from when you're used to living one way, a certain way, and you got to transition. Having people to help transition them is a really good thing, and just understanding, the differences between being in the military and being in a civilian job, it helps a lot. It'll help a lot. So, I think that if people can understand that and help those who are coming in and transitioning, it helps. It will definitely, it makes things smoother. And military people, if veterans get hired on, they're pretty good and loyal and willing to do what you ask.
Yeah.
Mike, you bring up a good point as you're talking about that. I'm thinking like recruiting is one thing, but onboarding and success is another. Like, and what does that look like? Sounds very specific for the group. So I'm sure we'll talk offline.
And I do that with the young interns that come into Ohio. Some of them, it's their first or second actual corporate job. They've had, fast food jobs or jobs in retail, but the actual first office job. And I'm like, so, you've got to crack the ice with them. Like, hey, so what are you thinking? What is it like here for you? And they'll open up and tell you what's overwhelming or what it isn't. Just let them know what to expect and how things work for them.
I do love that. And it looks like at this time, we don't have any further questions from our audience. So we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of Sterling Live. Again, thank you both for joining me today. Michael and all of our veterans out there, thank you so much for your service. We will be celebrating tomorrow, November 11th on Veterans Day, but we wanted to get ahead of the game here real quick. But thank you both for joining me. As always, we do go live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern across Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So we hope you guys can join us next week. But again, goodbye. Thank you guys. Much appreciated. So
see you later.
Catch you next week.
Bye.